What's up?
Steve, what's up,
James?
baby?
What's going on? How's summer going, man? How's the fam?
Yeah, man. My youngest son just graduated last week, so
how was it?
You know, I embarrassed him when he came off the stage. I loved it. Spent a lot of time with my youngest daughter. She playing volleyball, summer volleyball.
She had any tournaments recently?
They just played a tournament last weekend down in Anaheim. So
you see any other NBA players down there?
No, I haven't. Nope, I haven't seen any yet.
I used to see a few. Timmy Duncan with his hat yanked down real low. Mind the game.
Mind the game. We back, baby. Let's do it.
Great to be back.
Yes, sir.
I was thinking, you tweeted the other day about Hali. Or posted about Hali, about
man.
Well, he's playing, the overrated stuff. Maybe we can start there. Like,
please, let's absolutely start there.
Love to hear, first maybe before we even get into what he's doing, how he's playing, and breaking him down a little bit. Like, you spent part of the summer with him, a good chunk of the summer with him at the Olympics. He didn't play much, but I'm sure he soaked up a lot of incredible insight. Like, what was your takeaways from the time you spent with him this summer?
Just a great person, man. Great kid. I mean, didn't matter if he was playing or if he got the opportunity. He was the same guy every single day, and you could see that his mainframe was soaking in all the knowledge and the details, being around all of us, and he was just super appreciative every single day. Never changed his mood. When we had practices and we were doing 5-on-5 and maybe, it was a practice where some of the older guys didn't go that day, he was ready to go. If it was a moment in the game where he was called, he was ready to go. But just a great kid, like every single day, was the same person, joking, laughing, high-spirited, someone that you look at what's going on with the Pacers throughout the regular season and now throughout the postseason, you get it. You get why they are the team they are. And it starts with the head of the snake. We know that. And that's what Hali. I mean, you can gravitate and bring energy and love and would run through a wall for certain guys. And he's a guy that you would do that for because of how he plays the game, I've seen, a couple guys was like, they're going into a hostile environment, you shouldn't have a smile on his face. I'm like, this is who he is. Like, why are we always trying to change people because of this is what you say, the narrative, or this guy should look like this, or this guy should, like, everyone's preparation is different. Everybody is different, but Hali is one of them ones, and, the success is not happening just because it just came out the blue. It's happening because of Hali and that team. They're built perfectly for that group.
Right. Yeah, they've built an incredible identity. But it's interesting to hear you say like how kind of like upbeat he is, how positive he is, right? Like that is infectious, as you know. Like coming in every day, we play in the league. Like they're probably on game almost 100 right now, right? Including the preseason. So like that infectious kind of positivity coming from your leader, the head of the snake, like that results in more possession, better possessions, wins, losses, good practice days instead of bad. Now, not everyone's the same. So, but for that team, an upbeat, up-tempo team, a team that doesn't necessarily have that, hey, we're going to this guy, we're going to create ISOs, we're going to spread the floor. He's the head of the snake clearly, but that upbeat, positive attitude. The other thing that goes with it for me, that's I think cool and fascinating about his personality is like not afraid to talk that shit. You know what I mean? Like he has the confidence, for a guy, especially a guy that's not a physical player, he has that confidence to like throw this out there, like talk. And so I wonder if that's infectious for his team too. Did you notice that in the summer too? Is his love for just talking?
Absolutely. Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Like we would play a free throw game after every practice, it'd be me, him, and another talker, and AD, and we would just like, try to talk shit to one another, try to get somebody off their line. We would play the free throw swish game. If you swish, you get a minus, if you just make it, okay, you stay, you get one. So we try to, Well, I'm sorry. If you switch, you get 2 points. If you make it, you just get 1 point. If you miss, then you get a minus. You know, and we would go to a certain number. Sometimes we would go to 7. Sometimes we go to 11. And we were always just messing with each other. Like, and, you know, and we just be talking shit throughout the whole free throw game. So, you know, Hali was a part of that group.
That's great. Well, switching to his play, you know, like, I think sometimes, like, it's interesting to kind of categorize him. Is he a superstar? Is he a star? Like, what is he? But like right now he is playing elite basketball. And what are the components of that? Like for me, he's an initiator for his team. Like he can ISO. We've seen him ISO. We've seen him make big plays. He's extremely clutch. But what I love about his game is that he doesn't, and the Pacers have done a great job with their identity. They don't just try to get the matchup and go one-on-one. Right. Like there's much more to it than that. Like one, I love that he throws the ball ahead. A little bit of a lost art in our game, like throwing it ahead. You know, to explain it to the fans, like anytime you throw it ahead in the NBA, you know, NBA players, you know, some are better than others in isolation, but what most NBA players can do is attack a closeout. So if you think about throwing the ball ahead, you've got 1 or 2 guys going 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 in an entire half court. You know, that creates high yield opportunities. So his willingness and their penchant for throwing it ahead, first of all, I think is important. Do you see that when he plays? His willingness is kind of unique to be able to throw it ahead? Absolutely.
And like you just said, like you got to understand, like in the postseason, guys are picking up in the backcourt, 94 feet. You know, a guy like Hali, they try to wear him down. You know, guys like Ant, they try to wear you down. Guys like Shea, they try to pick you up full court. So what was great about what Hali does, so if the New York Knicks have scored or whatever the case may be, say Karl Anthony Towns scores, you know, on Myles Turner. Myles Turner gets it out right away and they're picking up. Just to kick ahead into the front court, now it's so much space because you're going to have 4 guys in the backcourt. You're going to have Karl Anthony Towns, Myles Turner, or Pascal, and then you're going to have someone picking up Hali in the backcourt. So when he throws it ahead to Nembhard, to Naismith, to Obi Toppin, to those guys, they have so much room to either see if they got an early fast. It's a fast break point. That is a fast break. That's a fast break point. If they have an early attack, they can go at it right now because there's literally only 6 guys in the front court right now. It's hard to score in a half court in the postseason. You get the grab more, you get the hold, you know, things of that nature. So his kick aheads is giving them the advantage. And we've seen it, you know, time after time after time in this series when the Knicks have scored. You know, Jalen Brunson gets into the lane, shoots his patent fadeaway. You know, Karl Anthony Towns gets into the lane and able to make a layup, or whatever the case may be. They're getting that ball out so fast that the Knicks have no chance of even setting their defense. And you see Pascal laying the ball up on the other end, you know, 20 seconds on the shot clock, like just like that, or getting fouled. So, you know, that ability, and that's infectious. That's infectious basketball. Right. When your star player is willing to give the ball up and get it out of his hands and trust you to make a play, that everyone wants to play like that. Guys want to play for that player. And then, you know what? If we don't have anything, bring it back out. And now here comes the ghost screens. They pitch it to Hali. Okay, touch screen, little touch, flare out, slip out. You know, now Hali's getting downhill. The ball gets to spraying, and here comes you get into the blender. And once the blenders start, now you have guys like you said. Most NBA guys play against the closeout. You know, we don't have a lot of ISO guys that can get you a bucket and one-on-one, nor do we want guys, certain guys playing one-on-one basketball. But we all know that when guys can get into a closeout game, that can make the team that much better. And that's what Indiana is doing right now.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that is, to me, is so valuable about their principles of the way they play, like they change ends quickly. Obviously, they want to play fast. They get out. But why do they do that? You know, again, I think you're spot on. Like when you have a lead guard that throws it ahead, or a playmaker that throws it ahead, guys want to run, right? Because they get opportunities to do stuff, to get the ball, to attack when there's not 4 guys in the paint. Right. So one, that promotes running. So now they're already like, hey, we want to play fast. We want to get out early. We want to change ends quickly. And then he's throwing it ahead, so it makes them even more motivated to do that. But I think what their ability to change ends quickly does to the defense is they create a lot of cross matches. Okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, it might be Siakam's out ahead. He doesn't get it, but he's got Jalen Brunson on him. And then they can throw it ahead, throw it in the post, and you got a problem. You got, you know, Karl Anthony Towns on the ball, perhaps. The ball goes into the post. They got Brunson in the post. So not only are they creating cross matches, they can go into the post, but they've also, like you said, if they throw it ahead, they drive against a broken defense. Even if they don't get anything, like you said, they're in blender with cross matches.
With
right?
cross matches.
So now the Knicks not only are trying to catch up, but they're trying to get organized as far as where's the danger, where's the matchup. So I love that they are constantly forcing cross matches, whether that's for attacks at the top or attacks in the post. You know, Turner too, like he's good at burying his guy in the lane. So if he runs the court, right, he has no problem just sealing a guard or a wing in the middle of the lane, which again causes a lot of attention, allows someone to maybe drive and kick, play 2-on-1 on the weak side. So I don't know if you've noticed that, but for me, that's a huge principle of what they do is that they start the possessions with the deck stacked in their favor because they create cross matches.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, you said it perfectly. You said it perfectly because sometimes they do a lot of switching too. You know, the only main guy I've seen that has kept his matchup has been Nesmith. You know, when Nesmith has been on the floor, he's kept his matchup. He's getting over screens. He's trying to get under screens to beat Jalen Brunson to the before stopping his drive, whatever the case may be. But some of the other times they're switching a lot, you know, or if Haliburton is guarding the pick and roll, he try to get out and show quick to get back to his man. But other than that, like you just said, you know, if Myles happened to get cross matched, you know, on Mikal Bridges and a three goes up, you know, obviously the shooter can't shoot and be the first one to get back.
Right.
So if Myles is contesting at the 3-point line above the break and he's running out, now it's Jalen Brunson, you know, that's back there. You know, it's one of the maybe smaller guys. So he's sealing them and it's going to cause a chain reaction. Either he's going to get a foul, he's going to get a layup, or now you're going to have multiple guys trying to either kick Jalen Brunson out or double, and that's when their blenders start. Right. You know, and you got Karl Anthony Towns trying to close out on some of these guys on the perimeter where he's not as great as we would be, obviously below the free throw line, you know, so that's working in their favor, man. That blender game, once that starts, because Indiana is not putting nobody on the floor that cannot catch, shoot, or drive. Right. And the only person right now has been the big kid Bradley that they've given some minutes as of late. Other than that, they come off the bench with McConnell, with Mathurin, with Obi Toppin. Those guys, Shepard, those guys come in and they're ready to catch, drive, pass. Catch, drive, pass, come up to pick and roll, slip, ghost, get out. Catch, drive, pass, blender game. That's all for 48 minutes.
It really feels to me like they've empowered all these guys. It's almost like maybe the most equal opportunity offense. And if you look at the names, like not disrespect at all, but there's other teams with kind of big twos, big threes, you know, a fourth guy that's really good that doesn't give as much responsibility to these guys. So there's this kind of equal opportunity nature of the way they play. So we talk about fans, media talking about how the game's become homogenized, it's pick on. You know, you look at some of these teams, and Indiana being the one I want to highlight today, but Golden State, the Nuggets, you know, even Miami a little bit, that play a slightly different style, whether it's pinch post, whether it's split actions, whether it's Jokic in all the different areas he can cause attention. But Indiana does an amazing job of playing a different way. And for the common fan, like to really check out how they play, how equal opportunity, how they always press the defense to try to get downhill, to force a rotation, to throw it out. Like Hali doesn't like take the pick and roll, force a switch, back it out, say get to your spots. He says, I'm just going to go quick. I'm going to try to create an advantage, play on the weak side. That's also what I think helps this team. They're unique in that way. Right? A lot of teams know, okay, like Boston, New York, we know they're going to force a switch. They're going to get to their spacing. They're going to isolate, right? And stay controlled in that way. This team doesn't do that nearly as much as they could or would in relation to all the other teams in the league. Yeah.
And the one thing that I think sometimes happen with when you play the Pacers, you know, when Hali comes out of the game, you know, you think it's a time to Hallie's come out, and TJ McConnell comes in and he doesn't look apart. He doesn't look, he's not super athletic, can't really shoot the three, you know, and you think it's a time to relax. Anytime any of my teams have played against Indiana over the last couple of years, that's even more heightened awareness because TJ changes the game as well.
He does.
TJ comes in with mad pressure on the offense constantly. He gets into his Nash dribble. He's circling around. And if you're not accounting for him, then the minutes that you thought you were winning, you could win with Hali on the bench. You end up losing those minutes 8-2, 7-4, you know, 9-3.
Right.
And those are huge minutes, you know? So like you have to, if you are the opposing team, there's no time. And Rick Carlisle and our good friend Lloyd Pierce.
Shout out to Lloyd Pierce.
Yeah, shout out Lloyd Pierce, our good buddy over there. They're not allowing New York to take a breath.
Right.
You have,
TJ kind of ramps it up.
Right, exactly.
He comes in the game, his pace goes up. He picks up full court.
Pace comes up. Yeah, pace comes up. You know, Obi Toppin comes in, pace comes up. Like those guys are keeping that pace. Like, you know, and listen, they're saying, listen, you want to take a breath, you get at halftime and you get after the game.
Right.
That's the only time we're going to allow you to take a breath. And they're just putting constant pressure on you. And that comes from buying in from day one. Okay. Right. You know, Rick Carlisle and their coaching staff looked at his roster. And obviously that was a huge trading for Pascal, I believe, last year. But they knew, okay, this is our roster and this is how we need to play in order for us to be successful. And we also know that most guys in the NBA, they don't want to defend a second and third action. They will play the first action, maybe even the second, but the third, you get them to a third and fourth action where you're driving and kicking, and that ball always moves faster than the body. That ball, there's nobody faster than the ball, you know? Yeah.
They don't really have any ball stoppers. Like they're always looking for the next action. And as you know, that's a habit. You have to build that habit.
You have to build that.
You have to build that. So like they draw and kick and they got nothing. It's a great closeout. They don't wait. They don't say, hey, what are we doing? They're straight up into a DHO, guard to guard, DHO, slip. Next guy's cutting, you know, when his man turns his head. So I think they're unique in that way. This episode is sponsored in part by American Express. American Express has taught me that finding the perfect restaurant is a lot like finding the perfect play. It's all about timing, research, and sometimes a great recommendation from someone you trust. Being on the road so much, I've become pretty particular about where I eat. My ideal spot is usually a local-owned place that has great energy where you can enjoy an amazing meal while having a great conversation. Sometimes it's that new fusion spot everyone's talking about. Others, it's just a little spot a friend recommended. With Amex Gold, you earn 4 times membership rewards points on purchases at restaurants, on up to $50,000 in purchases per year. So you can get rewarded for dining at some of the hottest restaurants in town and earn up to $100 back annually on eligible purchases at U.S. Resi restaurants. Enrollment required. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex. You know, let's talk a little bit about the inventiveness. Like, I've been really impressed on the defensive side. They've improved a lot. They've been year after year getting a little bit better because that was their weakness. You know, I want to give Pascal a lot of credit because both ends of the floor, he's a problem solver for them with his profile. Yeah. But I think, you know, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is the uniqueness of the way they play. We talked about the hit aheads. We talked about the pace causing cross matches. We talked about looking for early baskets. But when they get in that delayed transition or in the half court, you know, it's fascinating to me how you take the foul line extended area and then all the way up almost to half court. Typically in the NBA, we bring a player in for a pick and roll or we have a pin or something, but we want to clear that area. Right. Where they're fascinating to me is they have no problem like air traffic control. Like you said, the go screens, I think they call them blur screens. They'll come in, blur screen. One guy's coming in for screen, another guy will just come in and blur. Like, so there's like, say, you know, Turner setting a drag, you know, Nesmith might just come in under the drag and just essentially he's changing sides of the court, but he makes the defense say, whose responsibility is this? Do I need to help here?
Should I help here? Should I switch here? Should I stay square? Do I, you know?
And so they create this confusion, which gets people on their heels. Now Hali's turned the corner. And then you got some just different things. They play guard to guard pitch, which is very rare, right? Usually it's guard to big. They flare high. They might be running an action on this side and always flare the help. The cutting also moves the help. So for example, if we run a drag and Nesmith runs that blur while the drag is going on, the help's moving. So they've moved the help from, he's gone from strong to weak, or the guy comes off the pick and roll or rejects it.
So guy doesn't know if he's low man or not. He doesn't know if he's the tag guy, if he's the low man, should he be helping? Right. Or they might run a 21 action, a pistol action on one side, and someone's flaring on the opposite elbow.
So when someone dives out of that action, the help on the weak side is changing.
It's changing.
Talk a little bit, having played them, you guys played them 6 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
Like a little bit of like what that's like, that just chaos out there, foul line extended, when most teams want to keep that area spaced.
Yeah, it's like you just said, you just used the perfect word. It is controlled, constant chaos, and if you're not like head on the swivel at all times, but also communicating and talking, that is the number one thing versus a team like Indiana, versus OKC, versus the old Spurs teams. Like, there is constant movement. You have to have your head on the swivel. And I learned that when I played football back in the day, because you get hit with a crackback and it's over for you. And that's the Pacers. Like you just said, they could be running a 21 action, in a fast break, full pace, throw it ahead, pitch back. And, Turner comes set a flare screen for that guy. But on the complete opposite side, they could be setting a hammer screen. Right. So it changes the low man. You like, rip screen. But then if your guy sets the rip screen and he just slips to the rim, you're like, oh, my God, am I taking the guy hammer to the corner or am I staying with the rip?
Right.
You have to be on point at all times, and the communication has to start way before the ball even crosses half court. You have to have ultimate communicators out there, and guys. That's there was a point in the season, this year when we were playing. I believe it was the Minnesota series in the first round, and guys were coming to the bench, and it was a heated moment, I believe, and guys were like, we gotta talk, like we're not talking. And I was like, absolutely, that we're not talking. But you know what also we got to fucking do? We got to fucking listen.
Yeah, right. There's two sides of that coin.
There's two sides of it. Like I could be talking and be calling out the play. Hey, here come the flare screen. Here come the back screen. Here comes the rip. But if your ears aren't open or your head is not on the swivel, you're not going to react.
Yeah.
So there's a huge layer. We understand that 90% of basketball, when it comes to being above and things of that nature and being before the play happens, is communication. But guys have to have their head on the swivel, and they have to listen. They have to listen.
Yeah, it's like a difference between talking and communicating.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. You know what else I think is fascinating for me is, once we do get the matchup we want in our league, like we try to get so spaced, like if they run a drag and they got Haliburton on Towns, they'll bring another guy in, and it might even be a good defender, just to keep causing chaos. So in a sense, what they value more than the rest of the league is, instead of valuing that matchup and the spacing, they value the confusion. They value the next action. They value, okay, we like the Haliburton matchup, but say, he brings OG into the action and he throws it to Neesmith and he closes out now on Cat and he's driving and they get to the other side. Right. So it's that relentless pressure they're putting on the defense. I know they get out and get transition opportunities, but their pace to me is more about their half court pace than their full court pace. They are relentless at trying to get in the cracks, create confusion, get downhill, create closeouts, create 2-on-1s. I don't know of another team that would bring a good defender into a matchup, but it's because they value
they value that.
Chaos.
They value that. And it's funny, our good friend Pat McAfee was listening to his show earlier before we jumped on, and he says, isn't it ironic that their name is the Pacers?
Right.
It's very ironic that their name is the Pacers, because it's constant pace, constant pressure. Like they're not stopping. And just like you said, that, them having, Hali, they know, yes, okay, that's a good matchup. Hali on Karl Anthony Towns, Cat, that's a good matchup. But what's a better matchup is seeing if Cat can navigate a pick and roll with him guarding the ball.
Right.
That's not his primary. That's not what he do. Yeah. That is a shark out of the water. That's a fish out of the water. Not saying that he can't, but that's not what he's accustomed to doing. So they know to be creating that chaos, creating that indecision, creating that your one split. We saw that in game. What was that? That was game 2. The game 2 of the Knicks series when Neesmith started hitting all those threes late in the game. They were still running their same stuff, pace. Yeah. And it was a little confusion on the Knicks side, and they couldn't catch up to what they were doing. And that's all they're trying to create.
Mm-hmm. You know what else I think is an interesting topic and beautiful for me is like when I played for Mike D'Antoni, when I first came to Phoenix, he watched us play pickup basketball, and he was like, there's something here. I don't need to I just need to organize this and encourage it. And then he tweaks. Then he says, hey, we want to be deep, deep corner. Hey, we want to screen on the bottom side. Try to force the guy to go over. Steve gets down the lane, puts pressure on the big. Whatever he's made. I mean, Mike's brilliant and he made a bunch of tweaks. But he kind of was like, the players are inventing things as we go here. So I've seen this with good defensive teams, Oklahoma City. I feel like Nick Nurse's Raptors team was like this, where, of course there's principles, but a lot of it is the player's ability to read and react. And when I watch this Pacers team, there's a couple things that stand out, many things, but like Turner, he can roll and catch a lob. He can pop and shoot, but sometimes he short rolls. So the big gets on his heels and then he pops back out to three. Like, that's so unique, right? I'm sure, I doubt Rick was like, hey, why don't you short roll then pop back out three? He just saw he did it and was like, hold on, like, keep doing that. So I always think it's fascinating, the ingenuity of letting guys kind of be themselves, play off each other. You also see it in their cutting. Guy drives, guy turns his head, cuts, guy fills, a lot of that kind of, they'll do the corner cut and the drift, but they'll also just guy turns his head, cut. The guy doesn't stand behind him. He goes and replaces now. So as that guy cuts behind his man, the guy in the corners, man, is attentive to the cut. Now he's not just stood there; he's relocating. So now that's two defenders are going, who do I got? Right. And so I think some of that is principles, but some of that is them saying, hey, I know that's not unconventional. I know it's unconventional to short roll and then pop or whatever it may be. But as long as we're relocating, as long as we're getting to spots, as long as we cut and replace, you guys will find a rhythm. And that's where you're saying, this chaos that's causing all sorts of advantages.
Yep. And they know, and like you said, they know it works. And Rick could have did the same thing Mike did. He could have seen those guys the way they were playing in the summertime and was like, we have something here. Yes, I'm a organize the chaos and give it a little structure, but I'm not going to change the dynamics of it too much because this is who we are. And this is how I know we can be successful.
I always find that balance, right? Like, we're watching a game and the coaches are coaching, there's principles, there's action or just principled chaos. Because let's not forget, a big word for the Pacers is random. So to the casual fan, random doesn't mean a bad thing. Random means difficult to scout. They're going to go to the next action. They're going to play quick. They're going to cut when you don't think they're going to cut. He's going to half roll and pop, but he's going to get to the next side. They're going to put the 5 on the ball. They're going to make the 3 guard, the receive the pick and roll. Someone slips. Who's got him? Someone replaces. There's that randomness. And so for the casual fan, understanding like the coaches can implement, especially in today's day, you don't want to be so obvious or predictable that they can scout, take everything else. That's why, as we've talked about previously, we don't run a lot of sets anymore because people just switch it all and you're left with the same thing, looking at a zone ISO opportunity and trying to get to your spacing. But I always think it's fascinating to find where's the line between what the players have been encouraged to do by the coaches through principles, but also through their own personalities, through the dynamic, how they work, and then what they come up with on their own that the coaches help shape.
Yeah, I think that's built on the trust of the players. I think we all know that the more and more that you are able to instill trust into your coaches, they will give you a little bit more of the strength, And I heard a quote in one of the games in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I think Hali took a step back like a 30-footer. And they asked Rick Carlisle after the game, like, how did you feel about Hali shot him taking that shot? He says he's earned the right to take any shot he wants to take, and that right there let me know that, okay, the ball is in that guy's hands and the head coach and the head player is like this. They're in unison. They know what they want to do. And he's instilling that on the floor. He's the coach on the sideline. He coaches those guys, but Hali is the coach on the floor. That right there let me know that this is random basketball, but it's random because the synergy between the head coach and Hali is like this. And then the rest of the guys just all built together to that. That let me know right then and there what I was watching and why they're being successful.
That's a great point. Yeah, he's built that trust, earned that trust. He's the initiator, decision maker. He's the coach on the floor. Absolutely. It gives the team a lot of belief and freedom to go out there and be okay to make mistakes.
Absolutely. The kid had 32, 15, 12, and 0 turnovers last game. Zero. You can't give more trust to a head coach after a performance like that, He and they really do take care of the ball. I think some people would say, how do they do that when they play so fast? And that is a testament to them. But sometimes when you play fast,
it actually becomes easier to not turn it over because you're not
thinking. You're not holding the ball and you're not thinking as much. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're not like, which decision should I? I'm just I'm getting rid of it. I'm getting rid of it. I'm getting rid of it. The next guy's getting rid of it. Next action.
You said like if I don't have a shot, get off of it. You have a quick drive, okay? Someone steps over, get off of it. These are quick twitch. Mm-hmm. The ball moves, the body moves, and they've. To this point so far in the postseason, they've mastered this. This is a team that's really well constructed, well put together, and well coached.
Absolutely, amen. We're taping this. The Pacers are up 3-1 on the Knicks, going back to Madison Square Garden tonight. This episode should come out next week when both. OKC's already won. They're going to the finals.
Congratulations, OKC.
Yes, big time. But the Pacers still got to close this out. What do the Knicks have to do in your mind if they got any chance of clawing back into this?
Man, I mean, 3-1 is always a tough deficit.
Yeah, numbers are against you.
Yeah, the numbers are against you, but it just starts with one game. Mm-hmm. And they can't focus on game 6. They can't focus on game 7. Mm-hmm. The only game they can focus on is game 5 at home. And this has been a close series.
Absolutely, right?
Like
3-1.
3-1, it could be the difference between 2-2 or them feeling like they should be up 3-1, and this has been a close series. So they know that they're capable of winning and they know they're capable of playing well. They have to sustain. Mm-hmm. They have to close quarters. If you don't close the quarter right, that is the difference between winning and losing the game. It could be a 31-29 game with about 40 seconds to go. And if a team go on a 4-0 run, instead of it being a 2-point game, now it's a 6-point game. And you start at, a lot of people get so infatuated with the fourth quarter, Right. It's end of the first quarter, the end of the second quarter, the end of the third quarter, how you close the quarters in the last, 50 to 130, on the clock can result in, you winning the game. So I think the New York Knicks have to play fast. They have to get that, get Indiana, bodies shifting and whatever the case may be. And they have to close quarters, and if they close quarters, then I think they'll give themselves a good chance to win game 5. But if not, then we have a Pacers versus Thunder 2025 final.
You made 2 good points there. One you made earlier, and one you just made. I think earlier you said you got to communicate on defense. And I think one of the things the Pacers do to teams is they stretch your bandwidth. You get mentally fatigued with the chaos, and, right? You get mentally fatigued. Like it could be a simple 21, but this time it's a step up, a slip. He throws it back. There's so much going on and it's random. It's not like a pattern that There's dozens of patterns happening, random patterns. So I think people's bandwidth gets really tested here. And I think the Knicks, to the other point you made about communication is, they got to communicate through these patches. I thought, especially in the second half in Indiana, they made a lot of just big errors. I
agree. Things that you can control. Yeah.
Side out of bounds, back cut layup. Stuff that they don't typically give up. I think because their bandwidth was stretched, they made some errors. Or because of the randomness, he's like, this last time the back cut, he popped for a 3, so he tried to cheat it. Right. And he gives up a layup. So I think for them, what they've got to do, and like you said, it takes one game. They have to put pressure on Indiana. So winning at home, winning one game is going to put pressure on Indiana. They have to go home now. And if they don't close out, they're going back to the Garden. Right. So you got to try to find a way to win that one game, shift the momentum, put the pressure on the Pacers. And I think for them, that bandwidth, that communication, like you said, is so pivotal for them to be able to just hold them at bay and try to win a game down the stretch.
And also know too, like it doesn't matter. We know this Indiana team. It doesn't matter if you get up 25 against them. Right. It's not over. Like you got to keep going. Like this Pacer team, they don't stop. They don't stop. They keep playing all the way till zeros is on the clock. So, if you're able to build a lead and the crowd gets into it or whatever the case may be, you have to be able to understand that if they make a run, which they will make, how do you combat that? Right. You have to be able to either get to the free throw line to calm it down or get into the lane, or just make a quick run, and sustain the effort because we know this Pacer team, they're not going to stop. Right. They're not going to stop.
and win the possession game. Like you can't give up offensive rebounds. If they're not turning the ball over, you can't be kicking the ball over the gym. Like you said, get to the foul line, slow it down for a minute, get your defense set. Like so many ways to try to just keep them off the, you know, the full burner, right? Like when they get going and going and going, it gets relentless. But you bring up another great point. How historic is it that against the Bucks, the Cavs, and the Knicks, and two of them on the road, they've come back from like crazy margins late in games. Like there's something about this team, and I believe they call it walk them down. And they just slowly, methodically, with pace, find their way back into games. Have you ever seen this before? Like each round, they've had these historic comebacks.
Well, we know, like, you know, we was always talk about when I was making runs, like in the 2010s, and you know, that run when I was making with the Heat and with the Cavs, you know, the Golden State Warriors were one of those teams, you know, and it always was like, if you can win the third quarter versus them, because those
they were
guys,
amazing in the third, right?
Oh my goodness.
What's going on in the locker room at halftime?
Oh my goodness. It's like, you know, it's like early on you talk about it, and then if it still happens, then it's like when the coaches come into the locker room and bring it up, you're like, shut the hell up. Don't talk about it. We know. Like, don't talk about it. We know. Like, it's like, guys, listen, get out there, get a warm up, because Golden State in the third quarter, they're going to try to blitz you right away. You know, there were multiple games, you know, throughout that run they had, and, you know, they still will do it from time to time as well, too. But when Steph and Clay, those guys would really just start the third quarter, and they'd try to hit you with a 9-0 run right away. Make you call a timeout and try to get the momentum going. And, you know, so I've been a part of it before when the run, you just couldn't stop it. You knew it was going to happen. Right. It was like an avalanche, and you try to figure out ways you can combat it. And the only way you can combat it is by scoring, by attacking the rim, getting the foul, getting that whistle blown, you know, getting to the free throw line, and kind of slow them down a little bit, but also just kind of just staying like, you have to keep, you know, like you said, the bandwidth. You can't allow the bandwidth to stretch too much. You have to keep it where you're like, okay, we've been here before. We understand it. We know they're going to make a run. How do we make sure our bandwidth doesn't stretch to a point where now it's compromised?
You know what I love more than the perfect assist? The perfect story. And I've got just the one for you. Audible knows that there's no greater thrill out there than yours and Audible's gripping new original that'll have you right on the edge of your seat. Jon Hamm stars as Jack Bergen in The Big Fix, a Jack Bergen mystery. Think you know the story of Dodger Stadium? Think again. This noir thriller follows Jack, an ex-FBI agent brought back into the game by an old flame, to investigate a murder case that's not what it seems. What starts as a simple homicide investigation unravels into a complex web of conspiracy surrounding a Mexican-American community and the construction of Dodger Stadium. Trust me, this one's a game changer, featuring an all-star cast, including Ana de la Reguera, Omar Epps, and Aaliyah Shawkat, with a special appearance from John Slattery. From the brilliant mind of John Mankiewicz and the director, Aaron Lipstad, comes a story that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Like any great play, timing is everything, and now's the time to listen. Go to audible.com/thebigfix and listen now. That's audible.com/thebigfix.
Maybe shifting gears a little, I look at all the things the Pacers are doing offensively and think, like, this is possibly the future of NBA offense, with all the randomness, with not constantly hunting a mismatch, using cross matches, mismatches to continue to make defenses make lots of decisions, make errors, right? Same could be said of OKC defensively. OKC is, in a way, the future of defense. Now, I think it's easy to say that. It comes down to coaching, but it really comes down to personnel, because not every defense has the defenders OKC has or the IQ.
Or the IQ,
right?
yeah.
So talking about it, like you look at the profile of the defense, they have some balance. You know, they have the two bigs. Or they can bring some smaller bigs off the bench that are versatile, give you different looks, can switch. They have a lot of speed and mobility. Everywhere, you know, everywhere on their court, they have fast, mobile guys. They're one of the handsiest groups I've ever seen.
They are.
Like crazy, getting their hand on guys' drives, shots, whatever it is, deflections. They have the ability with that speed and mobility to get in the gaps tight, to make the best player have doubt.
Yeah.
Have doubt. This pass is kind of there, but the way they can fire back out, the way they stun and recover, the way they X out, like we talked about in previous episodes, their man looks like a zone a lot. Then you get to, they do play zone. Then they play zone with a trigger to man. Then they'll even play this hybrid zone where like Shea may leave the corner or he may leave the high quad and just stand around the nail somewhere and just be big and say, this is a no-go zone. And they're okay saying, hey, my partner's either going to pick me up or if they pass over high hands, I'll get back. But there's an IQ involved in that. Just love to hear, your thoughts on them overall as a defense. And then maybe we get into like how the Pacers and them match up.
Yeah. It's funny. After the game last night, I saw the clip from Ant Edwards and he said about their defense, it felt like it was 15 guys on a puppet string. Like
hey, if you're a coach, that's about as best as a star player could say.
15 guys on a puppet string. That means every single one of them are connected. You slide, I slide. You move, I move. And it starts with those guys at the perimeter's position. Jaden Williams, Lou Dort, Shea. Shea was one of the best guys with his hands. You don't look at him as a primary defender, but he was up there in the top 5, maybe top 3 in steals per game. And then you have those 2 athletic bigs that they have in Hartenstein and and the big fella. So it's key when you have those guys, with Chet Holmgren. So that is they have a system in place, but it helps with the athleticism and the personnel, like you said. And then they come off the bench with one of my favorite teammates of all time, and Alex Caruso, who is like
a dog.
He's the ultimate Swiss Army knife. We've literally seen him guard Giannis. We've seen him guard the Joker. We've seen him guard Ant. We've seen him guard Julius Randle. We've seen him guard Jamal Murray throughout this whole postseason. And you look at, plus minus after the game, AC will have 5 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and his plus minus to be a goddamn plus 17. And they got, and Casey Wallace comes off, and those guys, Wiggins, all those, and everyone, when they come in the game, they don't miss a beat defensively. And so I'm super intrigued on seeing how the controlled chaos of the Indiana Pacers offensively, pace, space, randomness matches up with the 15 guys on a puppet string defensive mindset of the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think it's a perfect matchup. Yeah. When it comes to who's going to be the one, where will the give and take? Now we're playing tug and war. How do we, who is your defense going to pull the string closer to us, or is our offense going to pull the string? So it's very intriguing to see that matchup because OKC's been the best defense all year. And Indiana has hovered around the best offense, all year, but they've always been top 5 in pace. That has never changed.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think Indiana wants to see Oklahoma City in the half court. I think it's so important for them to get out there before they get set, before they get those long arms, those mobile defenders loading to the ball.
I agree.
Because they have the functionality to just switch all that stuff to play. I think what OKC does, and you could see it against Minnesota or anyone, but meeting Ant at half court, Dort, physical, excellent defender, building a kind of a wall, one-man wall of presence. And the second guy in there zoning up. Then a back line of 3, which is really intelligent. They have a great feel for how high they should be. I always love when defenses push the boundaries on leaving from the baseline to like the block empty. Like, how high can we step to shrink the floor and say, yeah, you can go and try to find guys in the corner over long arms, at the rim over, when we've got you out at 35 feet. Yeah. So why cover this space? Let's compress the floor and move up. And I think their back line does a great job of stepping up higher and higher as long as they can to shrink the floor, to take space away, to bait you into doing things. And just, like I said, putting doubt in people's minds.
Yeah, absolutely. You just said, one of my favorite plays from yesterday while watching the game, on their clincher to get to the NBA Finals, AC was guarding the ball on the left wing. I believe he was guarding Anthony Edwards. and Anthony Edwards was able to get middle. And obviously we know we don't want anyone to get middle, but Anthony Edwards is such a dynamic offensive player. It's going to happen from time to time. But AC, he went middle, and there was a guy at the nail that helped at the nail. He gave full body help at the nail, and made Anthony Edwards get off to it, hit the guy in the wing. And there was a defender in the corner, and he rotated all the way, to take away that shot at the wing. Now, normally, you say, I don't want to give up corner threes. No corner threes, you want to try to stay home on that and force the above the break three. But they rotated all the way out. And instead of AC just standing and watching, he was guarding the ball and found his way all the way. He ran through the corner. And Julius Randle actually made this three.
Right.
But the percentages, when it comes to that effort, they're gonna win that percentage. He got a great contest, full hands, contest everything. And Julius Randle made that one.
Right.
But we seen throughout the series, Drew was not in a good rhythm. He didn't make that shot all rhythm, all series. And that's just like, they're on a string. Now, I don't know, because I've played with AC. I don't know if that's built in from their, what they do every day, shell defense, or that's just AC being AC.
Nature,
and you have, we had an opportunity when we won in 2020. We had AC as a defender, and we also had Rondo as the offensive guy. So they had the luxury and the freedom to make up shit. And you knew it was going to be beneficial to the team. So like a guy like AC, he's so intellectual. He's so smart that he knows that if my teammate is helping me, he put a full body at the nail.
Yeah.
I gave up middle. Full body at the nail. Oh shit, I can't stand and watch. I got to get to the corner and help my teammate.
We're going to be weak somewhere else.
We're going to be weak somewhere else. So I just thought that was super intelligent. And even though, like I said, Drew made the three, I was like, that you keep playing defense like that.
That shot's not going to beat us.
That's just not going to beat us. And I love that. That was just amazing to see.
Well, I think you bring up a great example for fans. Like when you watch this defense, like you just nailed on the head. They're a pack the paint team. They want to keep you out of the paint. So for the fan, if a guy drives from the wing middle, typically in our league, we try to show body and stunt because we don't want to give up that three or create a rotation. But OKC, they will show full body help to keep it out of the paint, especially on the primary initiator in Ant. So they give up a full body stunt, like not a stunt, full body rotation, which leaves obviously weakness on the backside. So the guy from the corner on a string, 15 puppets on a string, who's an athlete, flies out of the corner. And in this scenario, it's AC flying out to the corner. It might be the low man going, but I think what they do is they pack the paint. They give up threes, but they give up contested threes, hard contests, flying at guys. It gets dark. You think you're wide open before you know it. It's like, So to the point, like Julius made that shot, but that's a tough shot to make all night when someone is flying by you.
Absolutely.
So for the fan to recognize, they're going to try to keep you out of the paint. They're going to allow you to take threes, but they're going to fly out and be on a string and contest those threes. And I love that principle. I love that they say, you're going to kill us at our rim. We don't want to give up layups, fouls, offensive rebounds that lead to more layups, fouls, or threes. And they keep that paint area a no-go zone. So to me, that's a commitment. That's a clarity. And then, of course, like we talked about earlier, you have principles, you have athletes, you have a roster, you have profiles, but you also have a team that has IQ. Like for AC to decide, I'm not going to watch and wait and see who's supposed to be coming from under the basket. He's like, I got beat. I can see the corner and I'm gone. And then his teammates go, we don't need two going. AC's got this. I'm a big, I'll stay by the rim. That type of intelligence, you see it like they're, not just the principle and packing the paint, keeping teams out of the paint, but the ability to read and react with each other is special.
No, absolutely. And that's why where they are right now. Right. That's why they're hosting the Western Conference in the NBA Finals. They have the ability to do multiple things out on the floor, playing, like you said, when we started this conversation to begin with OKC. They have the ability to play two mobile bigs. Then they have the ability to go small and play smaller, with a lineup that's just super fast, super, agitating, super quick. And, you saw a few times, like, Rudy Gobert, as big as Rudy is, as big as, the Joker is, they get offensive rebounds and it's like a swarm. You see guys jumping on their backs, guys coming from up underneath and stripping the ball. And once they get a strip and now they're off to the races, that's their game. You know, you turn the ball over versus OKC it's going to be a layup or a dunk, you know, so they don't fear size, you know, because, you know, they have them dogs, they have them athletic guys, and then they have the intelligence, you know, and you know, that is a whole nother layer. We've seen a lot of really good teams. We've seen a lot of good athletes. We've seen a lot of good, you know, teams that's put together. But when you're able to also just, that last piece is an intellectual part, the IQ, and they have that.
Yeah. One last way to kind of chop up, if these two teams meet in the final, or something to watch, will be the possession game, because they both are great at it. They both take care of the basketball. They get shots. I think both teams are good guard offensive rebounders. They get, like, AC is relentless at trying to get tip outs, you know, same with Nembhard. Like, so they have the guards getting extra possessions. So you got to make sure you're getting defensive rebounds. You know, I think it's, you know, we say styles make fights. There's scenarios where either team can have the big advantage in this because of their differences. But I think OKC, just if they can get back in transition, make them play in a half court, can have a big advantage. Having said that, man, this Pacers team surprised us round after round, season after season, last 3 years.
They have. I think at this point it's just hard to doubt the Pacers. You know, obviously I think, you know, going into the finals, you know, the favorites will be OKC, and rightfully so. They've had the best year all year. I mean, along with the Cavs, but obviously we know what the Pacers did to the Cavs. So it's going to be hard to count the Pacers out, but the possession game is going to be huge. You know, who can win the possession game? You OKC coming in with the MVP, and also guys that's just been there before. I mean, AC has won a championship before, you know, but also you look on the other side, you know, at the way Hali's playing, and they've got guys that have won it before. Pascal has won a championship before with the Raptors. So, you know, there's some intriguing things, some intriguing storylines. You got guys on both sides that's not afraid of the moment, you know, and not afraid to fail. So, you know, it's going to be super intriguing. But like you said, I'll second that. I know, and we both can attest to this, it would be a much better basketball for the Pacers if they can get out and run and get out and move before, you know, those 15 guys on the puppet string get set. You know? Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for watching Mind the Game. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe for more content.